I have got a very special guest with me today. We've got Derek Mills, who is also known as the Standards Guy. And in this episode, he's going to teach you how daily standards can truly transform your life and are really the key to your own happiness and success. Derek has 30 plus years in wealth, business, personal development, and he was also featured in and the associate producer of the Think and Grow Rich movie. He's also the author of the 10-Second Philosophy for Success and Happiness, published worldwide by Hay House. And he shares his message all on stages all around the world, and he's helped transform the lives of thousands with his Standards Revolution. Welcome to the show, Derek. I'm so excited to have you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Ashley, thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
So, Derek, I know because I've done my studying up on you, and I know that this wasn't always the way things were for you. And for those of you listening / watching, in Derek's 20s and 30s, he was in a very different place, and he was facing a lot of financial difficulty. He was in debt. And at one point, his family home was almost repossessed by the bank. And he was struggling, working the long hours to keep afloat, which really kept him away from his family and his own happiness. And it wasn't until a moment in late 2003 when really everything shifted and transformed for him. And he turned his life around, his business around. He made his first $1 million and really finally began living out his genius and experiencing true success. So Derek, I'd love to kick it off with you sharing that transformational moment with us. Like, what happened to really get you to where you are today?
Well, Ashley, one of the things that I always like to share is that it only takes a moment to change the whole of our lives. Mm-hmm. I wasn't expecting that moment, but I had just a moment of clarity, if you want to call it that, where just what appears to me to be just a few short years ago, I'm in my office, and as you said, I've been working hours 6-7 days a week, late at night, and then the office security guard, the guy that comes to lock up the building, came around the building, got to my office. I'm the last person in the building, as normal, and he really just opened the door and asked for good luck. But I just asked him to just give me 10 more minutes. And then he went away, and I shuffled more bits of paper to think, who am I going to call tomorrow? And where am I going to have to drive to get some business and get some cash flow going in the business? Because I was really struggling financially. He went away, came back a few minutes later, and then he said, can I lock up now? And I said, well, just give me 2 more minutes. And bear in mind that when this was happening, it was around 9:45 in the evening. This was my normal day in the office, very early, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and leaving the office around 9:45, 10 o'clock, or later in the evening. So he looked at me and said, he said, what time do you get in this morning? And that's where my moment occurred, because I realized as I answered that question, I said, well, about 8 o'clock. But as he walked away, my words just hung in the air. I've been up since 6, on the road at 7, in the office for 8 o'clock. And I've been doing this not just for that day, but for years and years and years, missing the experiences of my family and my wife and my loved ones around me. I know this is quite common, but I've been doing it for so long that in that moment, something occurred that said to me, actually, you now need to stop being that way, because you know what? This isn't even your life. This is not where you're meant to be or who you're meant to be. And if it's not who you're meant to be or what you're meant to be, sorry, it's hot in my office, just turn the heating down, been roaring all day. And so if you're not who you're meant to be and where you're meant to be, then who are you? And the best thing that you could do in this moment is to stop and consider your truth, who you really are. So I had this, what I call the moment, the 10-second moment, a moment of clarity, that throughout all the things I've been learning and been told by these teachers and these books and these CDs and courses, and I realized, you know what, none of that is who I am. And what I need to do is determine to be myself, live for my truth, my true self. And what came out of that moment was also how to set and live by daily standards, instead of attaching my whole life and happiness to future goals I was never achieving. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And it's powerful because in that, I love that you said it's the 10-second, those moments when it sounds to me like you really, you went in, you took yourself out of all of the, the hustle bustle, all these, like the movement, and you actually were still, and you tapped and tuned into what was your truth. And we all have our truth. Like all of us can have access to that 10-second moment that really was a catalyst for your whole transformation.
Yeah, that's right. And it's about
Yeah.
paying attention as well, because, I'm sure like most people, I'd had other moments in my life where, something had stopped me, and I just said, oh, ignore that, or don't look at that, or cover that back over and move on. Carry on with the struggle. It's a noble struggle. Carry on with that. And really what I was really doing was ignoring my truth, because I think we are truth. We come from truth. We come from light, and it's who we are. And what happens in a way as we go through our life is that the world corrupts us away from our truth and has us believe that we should be something else or some other way. And what I realized late in my life was that actually that way is making me unhappy. That way isn't even me. And if you can't be happy and you can't be you, then what exactly is the point?
Yeah. What is the point?
Because,
we were not born on this planet to struggle, guys. You were not born on this planet to suffer. You were born on this planet to experience joy and happiness.
Indeed.
And so that's beautiful. I love that you said that.
We came here as majestic beings. Generally, not just artificially in terms of our looks, because that goes and that changes, and then it's not permanent, but it's the who we are. And it's a lot of people look at I need to say this because I get a lot of invitations to talk around the world, and I say, can you talk about that, and to this audience, and to these wealth managers, and these advisors, and these accountants, these professionals. And I kind of know that they're looking at what they call the success. I'll get this guy because he's now successful. But when I get on that stage, what I'm really talking about is who I really am, and who I wasn't for all of those lean years. I wasn't being my true self. So the real success is discovery of truth, and the daring to be that truth in this world that tries to keep you off the path.
Oh, that is so much gold in what Derek just said. So write that down, guys. That is so beautiful, because all day people you should do this. They're shitting on us. We're shitting on ourselves, oh, I should do this. I should do that. And it's like, no, what do you get to do because you have been blessed to be you, and you're blessed to do that thing, whatever that is for you, it's like, I mean, I love that you said that, where so many people are living based on external, society, what your parents say, what those close to you say, and not really tapping and tuning into our own truth and living our own purpose. So that's beautiful. And I love the way you put that. So thank you. And I want to talk about, because I know you said, you mentioned about the difference between daily standards and goals. You said goals are future paced. Can you go more into that for us, please?
Yeah, I can only share my experience and nothing else, because all of my adult life I was being taught, right from when I was 21. Someone said to me, set your goals and have your plan, and have your goals and set your goals and have this. And I remember I worked for one organization when I was in financial services early in my career, and they would say, get the goal, at all costs. And they meant it. At all costs to your customers, at all costs to yourself, your self-esteem, your truth, your integrity, your health. And then it just get your goal. And people have said to me, I'll get my goal no matter what. And I say, really? No matter what? Really? Is it that important? Is that who you really are? So what I look at is this, is that for many, many years, most of my life, until I turned things around, is I looked at my happiness by attaching it to goals. If I achieve this goal, then I'm happy. If I get that much money in the bank, get that house, get that position, become a president, become a this, become whatever, even having a certain level of weight or whatever it might be. And I've asked this question of other people, so it isn't just my experience, that when we set our goals, we have an attachment to that goal. And that attachment we're going to call happiness. Yeah? Because you ask people around the world in every stage of all cultures, from one place to another, so why do you set that goal? Because in some way you're going to be happy. And therein, I discovered, was the problem, because you can't be happy in the future. Happiness is a now experience. So what I was doing, what most people tend to do, is say, when I get that, then I'll be happy. And You know,
So good, Derek.
here's the thing. Most of us don't achieve our goals. I know this is an amazing personal development sphere that we all operate in. I don't care. The truth is, most people, no matter what program they've been on, don't achieve their life goals. So here's the question. If you attach your happiness to those goals, what happens to the happiness? Because in a way, you're saying to yourself, and I've really experienced this for myself and people I've coached and mentored and spoke for over the years. In a way, you're saying, Derek, or Ashley, don't you dare get me to be happy. Not until I've got £1 million in the bank and I've got that position and I'm that weight with this guy in my life and I'm living in that neighborhood, and then I'll be happy. But if those are you, if those are your goals,
you're so good. Go, Derek, go.
And if those are your goals and you don't get them, what happens to the happiness? Because you haven't had it now because you reserved it. Then you don't get the goal, so you don't get it all. So where is it? And we end up fracturing ourselves and fracturing the true happiness. So that was my experience. I'm trying to cut this short, obviously, but that was my experience after many years living in that goals, happiness, failing most of my goals. Sorry.
And before we move on, listeners, write this down right now. Write down. Happiness is not in the future. Happiness is a now experience. Write that down right now. Screenshot, share this, post on your Instagram story, tag Derek and I. That is gold right there. And so many people do that. They sacrifice our now moments, which is the only moments that we ever have. That's all we ever have is right now, this moment right here. And so many of us are living the one size, I'll be happy once I get, like you said, once I get the one size, the famous one size. And that's conditional living. Like that's conditional living. Like I'll be happy based on a certain circumstance that I want to happen in my life. That's not, you get to live unconditionally, unconditional living. So I just love that. And I wanted to really harp that in for the listeners and have them write that down, because I think that is so powerful. If you get one thing, please just get that. Okay, Derek, keep going.
The thing is that is the one thing, because it's the one thing that made a difference where I said, actually, I'm going to do. And this is where we get these questions, but I'll be prepared to look at the responses that come from within. I dare to go inside and look at what does this really mean for me? What came out was, actually, you need to be happy in the now. So what does that really mean? It means being you, and it means being present. And it means, instead of attaching your happiness to future goals and attainments, is to actually say to yourself, what if right now I go inside and ask myself, what's right for me in this world? And who am I? And how should I be in my relationship, my work, with my health? And discover my relationships with my money, and discover what I call there's five core principles of daily standards. Now I'll come back to that. But a daily standard is a basis, criterion, level, quality, or rule. A basis, criterion, level, quality, or rule that you set from within your truth. It means forgetting going outside of yourself to other things and other programs, just going inwards instead and saying, from my truth, what's best for me in this area, and how should I be in my relationships and with my health and my food and my exercise, with my money, and discovering your standards from the inside out. And once you discover the standards, you can then do what I did, which is to realize, hold on a second, this is my truth, and these are my daily standards. This is how I should be today, and this is my reality. I'm not being these things. So no wonder my relationships aren't working, and my health is rubbish, and I'm putting on weight, and the money is poor, and I haven't got many friends, and all this stuff, because the way my truth is, I wasn't being in the day. So here's what brought me happiness. First was a decision to be my true self, and that gave me instant happiness, not in 3, 5, 10, 20 years' time, because the decision just to be me, as if a weight had been lifted to say, don't got to be anything else, just be you. You're better for you as you. You're better for your family as you. You're better for your community as you. You're better for the world as you. If you get that, and then more was revealed. Because what was revealed over time for me is that the more I was within myself and being my true self for the world, more of my gifts were exposed. And that was so crucial. I'm even on this interview with you today, because the gifts that I had inside of me, I could never have set a goal around achieving the things I've achieved and what I've done. I didn't realize I'm a former stutterer as a child. Until my very early 30s, I was a stutterer. So if you said to me in my 30s, when I read loads of books and gone on loads of courses, that set a goal to become a multi-millionaire and to be a professional speaker, get paid tens of thousands around the world to speak on platforms, to be part of projects with with some of the most influential people in the world, to be a film producer, to be in Think and Grow Rich, and to coach people from Google to wealth managers and accountants around the world. I would never have written those things down, Ashley, because I didn't know that was who I truly was. I don't think this makes sense, but it's about saying when we write some goals, we kind of write them in a limited way in terms of what the course, the program, our friends, society thinks. We are far more than that. It's about going into live from that space, and you go way beyond any goal you could have written down.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so good, because what a lot of people are throwing out this word a lot. I throw it out. I think we all do. Alignment. What does it mean to live in alignment? What Derek is saying right now, guys, that is living in alignment. And it's so true, because I totally relate to what you said. I've written down goals. I've done that. And it's like, it's so funny because yes, they're great in terms of they give you direction in a sense. It feels good sometimes to write them down. However, when you're really staying true to your purpose and you're being present, like Derek said, and you're really staying true to yourself, you're living in alignment. That's what it means to live in alignment, is to be true to yourself. The doors that open are ones that you would have never seen in that old circumstance, because we're each operating from our present circumstances, right? So if we're setting goals from present, like from this circumstance, we don't know what our circumstance is going to be in the future. We can only be in the present. You see what I'm saying? So I hope I'm even like, maybe I'm confusing you guys even more, but it all opened up for me when you said that. I was like, yes, because when you're living in your truth, the doors that open are something that you could have never written down.
And that is the truth, because we don't know what's inside of us. We come into this world truly gifted, and I mean that in the true sense, with gifts. And we allow the world over time to pull us away from those gifts and the realization we've even got them. Once we realize we've got them, we try to explore them and let them come out into our lives and just dare to be our truth instead of being non-self. You can't be happy as non-self. That's why you're unhappy, because no one can be happy as their non-self. In your true self, your gifts begin to flow. So from there, the talents, speaking, or whatever it might be for you, I'm convinced of this, that I don't know who's listening to this and what they've achieved and what they've done in their life, who's living in their truth, who's not living in their truth. But for those not living in their truth, I can absolutely say to you right now that there are gifts and talents right now inside of you that you don't even know is there, that will come out when you repair that relationship with yourself. It starts giving. Like any relationship you have with someone else or with yourself, the more you reconnect and strengthen that relationship, the more is given. So when you meet someone and you're early part of that relationship, you have to trust it. You trust they're going to turn up, that they're going to be on time. 5 years later, you're married, they've got your PIN number for your card, and they've got your bank account detail, the key to your house, but you don't do it on the first date, do you? So you have to accept there's a reintegration of that trusting relationship. So you have to go to that place and trust it and give it time to develop. And it's from that place of truth that our daily standards come. It's the instead of having some other person or some other industries or your professions or your organization's standards, have your own, but set from within, from your truth, and live at those daily standards just from today. So let me just clarify that part to close off on the bit about goals. Most people have goals, and I have to accept that. But I know what those living by goals alone did to my life. It wasn't good. Depression, ill health, near bankruptcy. We had one house repossessed, and nearly half the family has repossessed as well. So all of that stuff, not great. What I noticed by living from daily standards, it was about being me, being present, living for my truth, just for today. I couldn't take the pressure of having these goals for a month, for 3 years, for 6 years, for 8 years. This isn't new, by the way. This is about the completeness of the philosophy. Because if you go back 2,000 years, Christ walked the earth. When Christ walked the earth, he said many things, but he said things like, he gave us the Lord's Prayer. And some people who listen to this will know the Lord's Prayer. In the middle of the Lord's Prayer, there are a few words, and those few words are, give us this day. Give us this day. Now, bear in mind, in my faith system, Son of God knows everything, is saying, give us this day. What he did not say was give us this week, give us this month, this 3-year business plan, this 20-year
Yeah.
program, this 15-year goal plan. He didn't say that. I'm thinking, Son of God and all that. He meant what he said, and he said what he meant. He said, give us this day, because then you said the prayer the next day. It's because you were in that day, which means be present in your day. If you're going to love today. If you're going to care today. If you're going to do today. If you're going to speak today. Do the things today. In fact, he qualifies it later on in Scripture when he says, have no worry for tomorrow. Tomorrow, in some versions, it says, tomorrow will have worries of its own or take care of itself. It's about the day. It's about being you and being present today. And here's the thing, Ashley, I'm sorry it took me so long in my life to realize this, but if I'm the best me I can be living at my truth, I'm better for the whole of my life and the whole of the world. My future's taken care of. It'll be the best it can be because of who I'm being in today. Daily standards are about the day, which is why I call them daily standards, not just standards. Your daily standards. Just be and live at your daily standards just for today, just until you get your head back on your pillow tonight. Stick to your truth. It's not long to go. What time is it where you are? What time is it till midnight? What time do you go to bed? Can you live and be your truth just until that moment? God willing, you get tomorrow morning, you wake up and you recommit to being your truth and sticking to your daily standards once more.
Amen. Oh my gosh, I love it. And this is such a perfect timing. I was just thinking for this episode because what's around the corner is all the New Year's resolutions that are about to be coming in January. So this is a powerful episode for you guys to be listening to right now. And something that I really also heard you say, Derek, and it's just another way to put it that really landed for me is when we're so fixated on these future goals. Well, clearly where we are right now in the present moment is not that goal, right? That's future. So we're living in the gap. So we're living in the gap between now and the future. We're living in the gap. We're not living in the now and we're not living in the future because that's not possible. We're living in the freaking gap. So no wonder you're unhappy. No wonder you're, feeling frustration and all those things. It's because you're living in a gap. You're not even living in the present because there's not that, like Derek said, like
so true.
You're living in the gap. So
in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. So if you're not in the now, you're living in the gap. So let's like bring you in the present moment. Take this is something I want to get into is little things that you do to keep you on that track. And before we go there though, I really would love to getting the listeners engaged and started on creating their daily standards. Where does one start here? And can you give us some examples of your own daily standards to maybe kind of support them with that?
Yeah. It starts with looking at the areas of your life that you're most frustrated with and making the decision that if it's with my money, my relationships, my health, my fitness, my family, see where the frustrations are or where the most, we feel most uncomfortable. Because when you feel that's a cue from inside to say, start there. So in my book and the works, I talk about the 7 key areas, but it's really around family, life, relationships, personal health and fitness, environment, who you hanging around, who you're associating with, your emotions, your career, your time and money. So it's looking at those things and saying, which ones am frustrating me the most, causing me the most angst or anxiety, and start with 1 or 2 areas. I was pretty poor at all those areas. Poor financially, family, relation. I figured out those 7 areas because I was poor in every one of them. But the ones that I started with were around my family and my time. So family was around, instead of getting up early in the morning and getting to bed late at night, long after my children had gone to bed, I made a commitment as a standard, not a goal, a standard today, take my kids to school in the morning. It's a simple one, but as a father and husband, it changed my life and the lives of my children. 45 minutes in the car with those children every morning, share ideas, listen, understand, all going on, and then even picking them back up from school as well. No more working weekends as a standard. No more working weekends, no more working evenings, because I used to work 6-7 days a week. Do evenings if clients would want to see me on the Saturday, I'll see them on the Saturday. Sunday morning, okay, I'll come and see you Sunday morning. I would do anything, anytime, any place, anywhere, but every other part of my life was suffering. So I set brand new standards. And then I went into my client bank and said, a lot of my clients in financial services were probably good people, some of them not so, abuse my trust, abuse my service, and would only see me at certain times, and would only contribute small amounts of contributions. In other words, I had to make a decision. If these people are only investing small amounts of money into their savings and their pensions and stuff I was doing back then I need to really raise the standard I'm dealing with. I made a decision, therefore, to have, instead of me driving around the country, seeing people in all parts of the UK, I'd say, new standard. All my clients come to see me. That's a new rule. All clients come to see me. I lost some clients. Those I lost, they perhaps were meant to be lost to me. And I gained other clients who saw me differently. I then set minimum standards of how much you need to have for your minimum order to deal with me. And I published that to those existing clients and to all new people I could deal with. In other words, I raised up who I was, because from the inside I'm different. I now have to put that onto the outside.
Yes.
So as an example, some of these rules aren't necessarily fair, but it is how they are. An example of that is on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're living a life, let's say as a 3, this isn't right, but the world would treat you as a 3. If you live life as a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, the world would see you and treat you and engage with you as a 4. Here's what I had to do. I had to raise everything in my game, my energy, my position, not doing weekends, minimum orders. No, don't take that little contribution. I'm not accepting that. It's minimum of this. Who I would deal with, the age, and there had to be nice people. I set all these new standards. Actually, as if by magic, here's what happened. I went from dealing with 4s to dealing with 7s, 8s, and 9s. And 7, 8s, and 9s began to turn up because 7s, 8s, and 9s don't deal with 3s and 4s. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying that 7s, 8s, and 9s don't deal with 3s and 4s. So as I raised my game and my vibration and my standards, people that would not have looked at me before began to say, can we deal with you? Yes, of course I'll come to your office. When you're trying to get me and come to my office down in Essex, and you tried for 2 years to come down to see me, to drive down the motorway for hours and come back, begging to come and see me, I didn't want to know. But when I called that same client and said, everything's changed, I had a real revolution within my practice. I can no longer offer to come and see you anymore. One chance, come and see me and I explain what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. You have to drive up here to the Midlands, all these miles, 3 hours drive to come and see me. Some said, fair enough, I won't see you again. Great. Others got curious and said, okay, I'll come and see you. Because I'd raised my energy, raised my game. And they were 7s and I was a 4. I pitched here and met the 7s. Because 7s
and attracted more of them as well.
Sorry.
I want to unpack that because there's so much juice in that. It's how I saw that is like, because I can relate. Oh my gosh, I can relate. I made I did a shift just like you did I said, no, there's so much power in the no when you're honoring your truth, you guys. Like, and the way that you communicated it was really good, by the way. When you said, hey, I've had this, you said something, it was really good. What did you say to that guy? You were like, I've had this, revelation.
It's been a revolution
everything's
in my
changed.
business.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So communicating it that way, because you're not making it about them. You're saying this is about me and this is about my truth. And you're giving them an opportunity to then meet you where you're at. And
or not.
Yeah, or not. And that's the beautiful part. It's like, here's the thing. A lot of people are scared of doing that. Like I was scared of doing that because it's like, oh, well, what if I don't get any clients? What if I lose them? What if I never get any more? The problem with that lies in the fact that you are operating from a space of lack. You are operating from a space of lack and scarcity. And so then your energy becomes what? Desperate. Your energy becomes desperate. So then you attract like what Derek said, when he raised his vibration, when he raised who he was, he started attracting more people that were 8s and 7s and 9s and these things, because that's what happens. Now, if we're operating from the space of desperation, we're going to attract more desperate people who are also operating from that space of lack. So just get really clear and like grounded in your truth, guys, because when you raise up, I promise you, and I'm sure Derek, you will say the same thing, like the right people who are in alignment with you will show up and the other ones will leave. And that's great because they ain't your tribe anyway. There's some weeds that just got pulled from your beautiful garden of roses.
Yeah, actually just got goosebumps just there because it's so true what you've just said. And it's not that they're going to show up. They're already there.
Yes.
But now they're seeing you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that vibration, you've seen the experiment where they tap on tuning fork and how it resonates. They're already there. But when you're at the right vibration, I knew there were millionaires walking past me and multimillionaires walking past me who did not see me. And they began to see me. They're already there. I was driving past them at meetings with some of them and they didn't see me at all. But it's about them getting to see you. So it's so important what you've just said to accept that and to let go of the ones that don't serve you. And what I found was a boost in my confidence, that the more confident I am in my truth, more people who, in fact, the funniest thing, this is perhaps an anomaly, when I was operating as a 7, I found the odd 8 or 9 would say, could we have a chat about that? I remember one particular client came to see me, blew me away. I began to play polo, and someone approached me who said, we've got a fund of around £200 million. Would it be okay if we could have a chat with you about that? Is that something that you could deal with? And I was kind of inside, I'm going, you know, but in reality, I said, well, yeah, of course we can have a chat about that. And he invited him to his house for dinner, one of the UK's richest men. And it's just, when you shift, people recognize it. And then what I found was, what I was really doing, I thought I was operating at a 7, but my vibration was so great that 9s would begin to feel me and to sense me and to wonder whether they should be talking to me. So it goes beyond when your vibration gets to 7, 8, and 9. I'm not talking about a 10, because what I do believe is that every single one of us comes into this world as a 10. We come in as a 10. We're born as a 10. But we don't tend to be 10s in our lives. But we come in as a 10. We can accept that. I mean, as a 10. How could it be any other way? When you think about it, how could it be any other way? Perfectly created. Perfectly created. How could you not be a 10? But if you're operating at a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or a 3 or a 4, something has caused that. And it's around moving away from that something and daring to be your truth, letting out the potential 10 that's inside all of us.
I love that. And it's so true. You were born a 10. You were born a 10. And some stuff happened along the way. And that's okay. And
Stuff
that's
happens.
okay. Stuff happens. Life will life.
Yeah.
So I love it. Speaking of when life lifes, this is leading perfectly into my next question for you, Derek, which is, when life lifes, when the stuff happens, because I know, we're all human. We'll have our human moments. There's times where I have violated my own standards. Okay. Doesn't happen often. It does happen because after all, we are human. For example, one of my daily standards for myself is that I do not check my phone first thing when I wake up. I just do not do it. I must meditate and pray first. So meditation and prayer, absolutely first. There have been times, very rare, where I pick up my phone and I've looked at it, right? And I've been like, oh, and I catch myself. So that's just one specific example. For accountability, and also how your rules of thumb, if you have any rules of thumb, when we do mess up, because we're human, when we do you have any rules of thumb on how to respond, how to handle those moments?
Yeah, 2 parts to that response. The first is that, yes, we all mess up and breach our standards at times, because we're human. So what I like to do, however, is to recognize my humanity and my flaws and actually set things up as much as I can. So I will set up people around me who are really, really great, who are close to me, to help me to stick to those daily standards. I don't share them with everyone. So if it's a health standard, I'll what we call buddying up. We use a buddy up system. Buddy up with someone who's awesome at their food, whether it be their exercise, their diet, the food that they're eating, whether they're looking at their macros or just not eating the junk food. And I'll let them know what I'm doing. I'll find out what they're doing and then get them to be my buddy about where I am. Same with exercise, whether it be a personal trainer or a good friend. Same around money, is you choose someone, not for every area of your daily standard, but the ones they're exceptional in this area. If not exceptional, far better than you. Yeah. So this moment, choose someone who's really great and ask them to be your buddy. And then I use technology. So for example, if it's around prayer and meditation, or even, dare I say, flossing, I'll use my Apple iPhone as a reminder with an alarm going off, say, no, to meditate. floss
Mm.
and go to bed. People sometimes, when I'm out sometimes or at a social, my phone goes off and it says, floss and go to bed. You know, I use technology. I use my Outlook to remind me, and I use my team around me to say, make sure that I do this, because I like to systemize things, because success is a system.
Mm.
Failure is a system. So we need to systemize things. I'm not, as a person, I have these weaknesses and these flaws. If I didn't systemize stuff, I would fall to those flaws. So the idea for me is, if I set things up, success is a setup. So if you're failing at your standards in your life, then you probably set things up that way. What do I mean by that? Well, I, for example, was eating food when I was coming to the office. I pop out for lunch, go to a local shop or store, and then I'd eat something on the way into the office and something on the way home. Then I realized this food isn't healthy for me. So I began to research a company or companies, and I found one that delivered to my office my breakfast, my mid-morning snack, my lunch, and my afternoon snack, all organic, all healthy, all low salt, etc. And I had that company come to me delivering. So I was forced to eat. I didn't want to go and find the food, because I would find the wrong foods. I know what I'm like. So I set myself up so I could not fail by having someone else take care of my food. So to
Mm.
this day, I have my food delivered to me, the right kind of food, the right protein and the balance and the mixes. So it's about money, health. This is about being really personal. There is no one stock answer. It's about being honest enough to say,
Totally.
can I look at this area and then set up alarms, use Outlook, use
Yes.
buddies, use people within your company? Because if you accept that you've got these flaws and you're working to be more and more of your truth, accept it. And, and tell people around you. If you've got children, tell your children what your new standards are. Because I promise you, if I tell young children or any children what your new standards are, they will help you more than any book.
But Dad, you
Yeah,
said,
yeah. You said, aren't you doing this anymore?
so true.
You know, this is, so I set myself up because I wanted to be my truth. And I know after so many years of living in non-self, I needed support to help.
Mm.
And here's the thing, which I didn't mention earlier on. Our daily standards come from our truth. But as we stick to those daily standards, they help to keep us in our truth.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
vital. I didn't know I was going to experience that. When I realized what was happening to me, I had to make note and literally turn down
Mhm.
the glass and say, this is what's happening. My standards came from that place. As I live from them, they help to keep me in that space of truth.
Mm.
So
So,
practically get people around
yep.
you, systems, technology, and other people
So
around you,
powerful.
buddies.
And what Derek said is exactly right. Like, everyone is so different. You listening right now, I'm going to challenge you. Once this episode is over, we're nearing the end here. Create that space for yourself, create the time to sit down and really get real with, okay, what areas do I struggle with? Is it food? Is it eating right? Is it fitness? Is it what time I go to bed at night? Is it, flossing? Whatever it is that you struggle with, write that down. And then really sit and brainstorm, what is a system I can create for myself here? Who is a buddy that could support
Mm.
me in being accountable and staying true to myself? Could I tell my children about this to hold me accountable? And really just get creative, because I love that. And everyone is so different. And only you, remember, this is like
Yep.
circling back to the beginning of the episode, only you know the truth. Only you know the answer for you. So you just got to create the time and space to really get real with yourself and figure this out. And I love that I have reminders on my phone too. I have reminders on my phone. I've had that before. I've been out and it's like, it has a little din, 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 and then it says bedtime, Ashley. So,
There you
because
go.
one of my
Yeah.
because one of my things that I've struggled with in the past is going to bed at the time that will set me up to win, right? And so I have that coming on every day to get me there. So, guys, you know the freaking answer. I promise you do. Create the time, create the space to sit down with yourself and create this new game plan. I mean, this is a freaking awesome day by day way to live your day, because remember, all you have is this now moment, this present moment. It's all we ever have. And, Derek, friggin' A, there's so much more that we could jam out about on
I
here.
know. I realize that now. Just listening to you, I realize
Frickin'
there's so
A.
much more.
I know. We may have to do a part 2 this time in
Part
person
2.
next time I go to London,
Indeed.
which
Yes.
by the way, guys, I'm sure you've noticed Derek's, like, you have the most soothing voice. Plus you got the British accent. It's like, ah. So we definitely may have to do a round 2. And
Indeed.
is there any last thing that you want to say to our listeners? Anything that that you feel called to share before we complete this amazing, valuable episode?
Yeah. Actually, I think I love the way you asked that. It's called feeling called to share. I do feel now that I'm living my calling and have been all of these years since my 10-second moment, hence the book, The 10-Second Philosophy, because it came out of there. What came out of there was my truth, was my real calling to be who I am and to then share that experience with other people, because it's too painful to have people suffering in non-self, suffering with being happy one day and not having the happiness in the today, being fractured in their relationships with themselves. And I know this not from theory, but from actual years and years of pain and practice in that pain. So but my calling to you is to say, consider what we've been discussing, Ashley and I, in this conversation, and be patient with yourself as you try these things. Be patient with yourself. Trust your truth, because it knows you better than you know yourself. I had to discover that and was shocked at times. I can't no time share that now. Shocked with things my truth gave to me, and it gave those extra things to me, those extra gifts, those extra geniuses, because we were back together. We were trusting each other again more. So you just be patient with yourself and be patient with those around you as they catch up to where you now are. Especially as and when you raise your standards, people around you will treat you for a while at your old standards. Expect it, because that's who you used to be. They're not going to change because you've just changed. But eventually, as you stick to your standards, they will treat you differently. And when the world treats you differently, everything will change for you. Everything.
Woo! Mic drop. Thank you so much, Derek. Wow, this has been such an incredible episode. I'm freaking loving
my
it.
voice is going.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You guys, when Derek jumped on, he was like, "I'm having a bit of a throat thing. I have my cough. I have my tea and my honey here." So I'm like, "Well, thank you for sticking it out with us today. I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful.
God bless you.
I'm so grateful for this, and I just love everything that you're up to. So thank you for sharing your heart with us today."
My pleasure.